On November 3, 1988, the Maldives was a quiet, serene island nation, waking up to another day of tourism. That peace broke before dawn. Out of the darkness, a hijacked freighter offshore deployed a fleet of speedboats. Roughly 80 heavily armed mercenaries rushed the capital city of Malé. Disguised as tourists to slip past the docks, these fighters belonged to PLOTE, a Sri Lankan Tamil militant group. They were hired by a disgruntled Maldivian businessman, Abdul Gayoom, who promised them a permanent base of operations in exchange for a violent regime takeover. Within minutes of landing, they overran the national television station, the radio network, and the National Security Service headquarters. The attackers met very little resistance, and for a simple reason: the Maldives did not have a standing army. Their entire defense force consisted of a lightly armed paramilitary unit meant for coastal policing, completely outgunned by attackers wielding heavy machine guns and mortars. The primary target of the infiltration was this man, President Maumoon Abdul Gayoom. As his capital fell to the mercenaries, he evaded capture by rapidly relocating between the homes of loyal supporters, watching the chaotic firefights from a series of safe houses. With the airport, the communications grid, and the security headquarters compromised, the local government had exhausted its defensive options. A sovereign nation was now only a few hours away from being entirely captured by a stateless mercenary syndicate. From hiding, President Gayoom sent frantic distress calls across the globe. He contacted Pakistan, Singapore, the UK, and the United States. But as this map shows, Western intervention was a physical impossibility. The nearest American military base was at Diego Garcia, 1,000 kilometers away. It would take U.S. forces 2 to 3 days to arrive. The Maldives did not have 3 days. The SOS eventually reached New Delhi. This is Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, who received the distress call. Recognizing the immediate threat, he and his military commanders entirely bypassed standard bureaucratic delays, authorizing an immediate, full-scale rescue mission on the spot. General Sharma met the Vice Chief of Army Staff at South Block, and within minutes, the Director General of Military Operations began alerting both Navy and Air Force commands to coordinate a joint response. The parameters were punishing. India had exactly 16 hours to launch a task force, project military power across the Indian Ocean, and secure a foreign capital. There was absolutely zero margin for error. The ground assault was assigned to the 50th Independent Parachute Brigade in Agra. They immediately ran into the ultimate fog of war problem. They were tasked with executing a foreign invasion, but they had absolutely no military maps, no topographical data, and zero intelligence regarding the layout of their target zone. The solution came in the form of pure improvisation. The Indian High Commissioner to the Maldives, who happened to be in New Delhi, handed the military a standard over-the-counter tourist guidebook. Mid-flight, commanders used the glossy resort maps and a photograph of the president to brief the paratroopers on what their objective actually looked like. To get those troops there, the Air Force deployed this aircraft, the Ilyushin 76. It was chosen specifically for its massive cargo payload and, crucially, its fuel capacity, which allowed it to fly the entire distance from Agra to the Maldives without needing to stop and refuel. But the aircraft on the tarmac didn't have enough fuel for the round trip. Standard fueling for an IL-76 takes 4 to 5 hours. The ground crews at Agra tore through their protocols, engineering a mechanical miracle to fully fuel the heavy transports in an unbelievable 90 minutes. By discarding conventional military procedure in favor of raw speed and extreme tactical improvisation, the first wave of paratroopers beat the ticking clock and got airborne. At 10 p.m., the transports approached Hulhulé Island. Because the mercenaries controlled the capital right across the water, the Maldivian air traffic controllers kept the runway lights deliberately turned off. Landing a fully loaded, massive military transport in pitch blackness carries a fatal risk. If the pilots overshot the incredibly short runway by even a fraction of a second, the heavy aircraft would plunge directly into the dark waters of the Indian Ocean. With zero visual confirmation, the Indian Air Force pilots relied entirely on their onboard radar. They aligned the heavy transport planes for their final descent while flying completely blind, hovering a terrifying 100 meters above the sea. At the very last possible moment, the Hulhulé Tower flashed the runway lights on for a mere 3 seconds. It was enough. The pilots slammed the wheels down in a flawless, extreme braking touchdown, bringing the aircraft to a shuddering halt with only 3 concrete slabs of runway left to spare. That singular feat of aviation skill meant the first wave of Indian troops had successfully penetrated the mercenary perimeter, arriving entirely undetected. Once on the ground, the paratroopers secured the airfield in exactly 30 minutes. To cross the 3-kilometer water channel into the capital of Malé, they commandeered local tourist speedboats and launched their counter-assault. Moving into the city's narrow streets, the paratroopers engaged the mercenaries in intense house-to-house urban firefights. The invaders, severely outmaneuvered by the elite Indian forces, quickly collapsed into disarray. By early morning, President Gayoom was safely rescued. Realizing the coup had failed, a group of surviving mercenaries hijacked a commercial freighter, the MV Progress Light. Taking several civilian hostages with them, they attempted a desperate escape into the open ocean. This is where the Indian Navy closed the trap. Ships like the INS Godavari were deployed to track the fleeing freighter. Supported by helicopters dropping depth charges, naval forces intercepted the hijacked ship at sea, sinking the vessel and capturing the remaining plotters. The Air Force delivered the troops. The Army cleared the city. The Navy secured the ocean. By synchronizing 3 separate military branches seamlessly, India neutralized a multi-domain threat and effectively ended the invasion in under 24 hours. By November 4th, the democratically elected government of the Maldives was fully restored. The hostile force was neutralized, the hostages were secured, and the paratrooper suffered minimal casualties. Allowing the coup to succeed would have handed a stateless militant group a permanent sanctuary directly across from India's western coast, threatening vital shipping lanes. But the sheer velocity of Operation Cactus was a powerful deterrent. As this radius of influence shows, the rapid deployment sent a clear message. The Indian Ocean was firmly protected under New Delhi's security umbrella. The operation led to the Maldives declaring November 3rd as Victory Day, and for decades, India became the nation's primary source of infrastructure aid and military training. In under 24 hours, India neutralized a regional crisis through a rapid overseas deployment that no other power in the region could match. It served as the first demonstration of New Delhi's ability to act as the primary security provider for the Indian Ocean.